Once upon a time, in a grand kingdom surrounded by tall mountains and shining rivers, there stood a magnificent castle made of white stone. Every night, when the silver moonlight covered the castle walls, something very strange happened. The king had 12 beautiful daughters. All of them were graceful, charming, and loved by the people. But there was a mystery. Every single night, the king locked the large wooden door of their bedroom with a heavy iron lock. Guards stood outside. No one could enter, and no one could leave. And yet, every morning, the princess's shoes were completely worn out. Not slightly scratched. Not a little dusty. But torn, scraped, and ruined, as if they had danced for hours and hours on stone floors. This happened once. Then twice. Then every single morning. The king was confused. The guards were confused. Even the royal wizard could not explain it. How is this possible? The king wondered. So finally, tired of the mystery, the king made a grand announcement: whoever discovers how my daughters wear out their shoes each night, shall marry one of them, and become the next king. The news spread like wildfire. Knights came in shining armor. Princes came from distant lands. Rich noblemen arrived with confidence in their eyes. Each believed the mystery would be easy to solve. But they were wrong. Each young man was allowed 3 nights to guard the princess's door. And every single one failed. They swore they stayed awake. They promised they never closed their eyes. But somehow, every morning, the shoes were ruined again. Whispers spread across the kingdom. Magic. A curse. A hidden tunnel. The mystery only grew deeper. Crescent Moon, the ordinary young man. One day, a simple young man arrived at the city gates. He had no horse. No armor. No rich family name. Just kind eyes, and quiet confidence. The guards laughed when he asked to see the king. But the king, desperate and tired, gave him a chance. On his way to the palace, the young man saw an old woman sitting by the road. She looked weak and hungry. "My dear boy," she said softly, "can you give me something to eat?" Without hesitation, he gave her all the food in his bag. He kept nothing for himself. The old woman looked at him carefully. "You are different," she whispered. From her basket, she pulled out a simple gray cloak. "When you wear this cloak, you will become invisible." The young man's eyes widened. "But remember," she warned, "do not drink anything the princesses offer you. Not even a single sip." He thanked her deeply. And that night, his adventure began. New moon the first night, the mistake: the princess's door was locked. The young man sat outside, waiting for midnight. Suddenly, the door opened slightly. The oldest princess stepped out, smiling sweetly. In her hand was a glass of golden juice. "You must be tired," she said kindly. "This will help you stay awake." He remembered the old woman's warning. But the princess looked harmless. Polite. Gentle. So he accepted the drink. One sip. Then another. Within minutes, his eyes grew heavy. The world began to spin. And he fell into deep sleep. When he woke up the next morning, the shoes were ruined again. He had failed. Waxing crescent moon the second night, another failure the second night, he promised himself he would not be fooled. But this time another princess brought him a sweet orange drink. He was thirsty. Very thirsty. One sip, she smiled. And once again. He fell asleep. The king warned him, "One more night, or you will face punishment like the others." The young man felt ashamed. But he remembered the cloak. He remembered the old woman. And he whispered, "Tomorrow I will not fail." Full moon the third night, the truth midnight struck. The youngest princess appeared with a drink. He politely accepted it, but secretly poured it into a nearby pot. Not a single drop touched his lips. Then he put on the magic cloak and disappeared. He quietly entered the princess's room. Inside, all 12 princesses were dressed in sparkling gowns and brand new shoes. The oldest princess clapped 3 times beside her bed. Suddenly, the floor moved. A secret staircase appeared. The princesses began walking down into the darkness. The young man followed. Deciduous tree, the silver forest at the bottom of the stairs. He saw something magical. A forest where the trees had silver leaves. They shimmered in the moonlight like stars. He quietly broke off a silver branch. Proof. The princesses continued walking until they reached a wide river. There were 12 swan-shaped boats waiting. Each boat had a handsome prince. The princesses stepped inside. The young man jumped into the last boat. The prince frowned. The boat feels heavier tonight. But the princess laughed. You imagine things. Castle, the hidden castle across the river stood a shining castle. Music filled the air. Laughter echoed through the halls. The princesses began to dance. And dance. And dance. For hours. Their shoes slowly wore out on the shining floor. The young man watched everything carefully. He even took a golden cup from the table. When morning light began to appear, the princesses returned. Through the river. Through the silver forest. Up the secret stairs. And back into their room. The young man returned to his bed before sunrise. Holding the silver branch. And the golden cup. Crowned the revelation, the king entered his room. Well, he asked. The young man bowed. Your Majesty. I know the truth. He explained everything. The secret tunnel. The silver forest. The swan boats. The underground castle. When he showed the silver branch and golden cup, the king knew it was true. The princesses were called. They could no longer deny it. The oldest princess admitted everything. The king sighed deeply. I do not blame you for wanting adventure. But secrets can be dangerous. Then he turned to the young man. As promised, choose one of my daughters. The young man looked at them. And chose the youngest princess. She blushed softly. Because she admired his bravery and kindness.